Hello and welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm joined by Hasan Kubba, the author of The Unfair Advantage, the business book of the year. And Hasan will explain us how you can find your unfair advantage. That is the specific skill that is special to you and which you can use to create your successful online business. So let's listen to Hasan. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Hasan Kubba. Hasan is an award-winning author of The Unfair Advantage. He's also an online entrepreneur, a coach, and as of recent, also a course creator. Welcome, Hasan.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on, Dominic.
Yeah, so good to have you here. We met in ODCC, actually, which is an online cohort-based course about course creation. And now you recently launched your own course. So what was that about and how does that tie into what you've done previously?
Yeah, it was an exciting experience. I've always wanted to do my own online course. I've been into online courses. I actually got into business because of an online course back in 2012. So it's been a whole journey for me. The course that I have just finished running, and not just finished, maybe it was a couple of months I finished running. And what it's about is it's called Transformational Creator. It's aimed at content creators who might still have just a small audience. Maybe they're just starting out, and it's how they can monetize their audience and jumpstart their business through coaching. So the idea is how to niche down, really figure out the needs of your audience, identify who they are, and this whole thing of niche down to blow up. So this idea, and then validate that, how to validate your assumptions that you've made in your niching down, what the fears, frustrations are, dreams and desires are of your audience, how you can help them get to where they want to be. And then you validate that through coaching. And then you could charge for coaching as well. As soon as you learn the frameworks and realize that you can leverage your own unfair advantages. At the beginning, before the niching, you figure out what your unfair advantages are, which is the concept behind my book. And then you can actually monetize an audience that could be quite small. They could be quite dedicated and they resonate with the things that you say or the things that you teach. So that's kind of the ideas behind it. And another way that you can explain this is people often start with a low price product. They'll sell t-shirts and merchandise or $10 ebook or something online. And then they start to build more confidence to do higher priced products. But if you do that the opposite way around, you flip the funnel on its head kind of thing, and you start with the high end products, you can then actually have a viable business even with a small audience.
Right. That's very interesting. And so, you wrote a book, The Unfair Advantage, but way before that, you actually started your own online business, as you mentioned. So tell me a bit about why did you want to start an online business? What did you learn on that online business, and how did that lead you to the idea of the unfair advantage?
Yeah, so for my first business, it was a big deal because I consider myself like an unnatural entrepreneur, really. I wasn't the type like Gary Vee or my co-author, Ash Ali, the co-author on my book. These guys were like making money when they were kids at the playground in school. That wasn't me. I kind of learned it on an online course, as I said. So it was a course about how to create a business that then runs itself. And it was based on the 4-hour work week and living a life of freedom and adventure. And that's why I did it, really. I didn't want to get a normal job. I did economics. Before that, I was doing medicine, going to become a doctor, essentially. And I dropped out. And I think what I really wanted is time freedom, not just having a lot of money. So that was my driver. So it wasn't based on some kind of passion or anything. However, the idea behind it was a digital marketing agency. So I could learn the ropes of online marketing. And I could start doing it for clients before I do it for my own products. And actually, my first target audience was experts, consultants, coaches, etc. I got my first client in that space. It didn't really feel like it's a space that's going to be worth a lot of money to me. I started working with local businesses. I pivoted slightly. But I was doing their websites, their SEO, their marketing online, branding, all these kind of things. And I learned so much. And while it wasn't a passion, what was fun is growing and learning and then systemizing from the get-go, delegating, systemizing. And after 2 years of really hard work, no 4-hour work week there, I did reach the point where I could create passive income, travel around, and business was doing that for me. And it was during that time I met my co-author, Ash, my soon-to-be co-author. And he had just had an IPO with a business called Just Eat. And I'm sure you're familiar with it, based in the Netherlands, because this company is originally from Denmark and then to London, and it grew internationally from there across Europe mainly. And now it's a huge, huge company because they acquired all these other ones, and did all these different things. So yeah, Just Eat, they had an IPO in 2014. I met Ash like a year or two later, and he was the first marketing director there. So so I knew about the online business world. He introduced me to the tech startup world. I learned about angel investors and investing. And we started doing angel investing together. And our thesis behind what makes a good entrepreneur to invest in, what makes a good startup to invest in, became the unfair advantage concept. Because we'd often see people fall into this myth that, oh, I'm working really hard, I should get there in the end. And we felt like there was more to the story, and we wanted to help those people who came from underprivileged backgrounds like us.
Right. And so the unfair advantage is actually something that grew out of angel investing, which you did next to or after building your online business.
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit with Ash, and it was just something that was really interesting to kind of try and decide. And I've, gotten more and more interested in investing lately, but I've always had a passion for teaching, and that's hence the whole course creation route and this idea of trying to create like a foundation to be able to create a lot of content and help a lot of people, basically.
Right. So, and how did that, like the passion for teaching, I guess, also go into the book where you want to tell people how to identify their unfair advantage, presumably how to actually use that to build their own businesses, etc. So, like, how did you write that down in a way that actually helps people and helps them take action?
Yeah, so I really treated it like a kind of a course. The book itself is kind of followed that structure of like helping somebody to transform. So section 1 of the book is life is unfair. And it's this idea of where does success come from? Does it come from merit and hard work, and as if we live in a pure meritocracy? Or does it come from luck and random chance and fate? And what we argue in the book is, of course, it's in the middle. Of course, it's in between the two.
Right.
It's not like what all these motivational speakers and self-development books tell you, which is it's all about you. You can do whatever you dream of, and you can just work hard at it and do it. We were there to say, no, actually, there are limits, and people have different strengths and weaknesses. You have to find your personal edge. You have to find your unfair advantage. That's section 1. Section 2 is how to audit your unfair advantages using a tool that we created called the Miles Framework. And then part 3 of the book is about how to get started with a startup. So it was structured in that way of like helping people to understand, get that self-awareness. There's a theme of gratitude in the book, and it's done really, really well. It shocked us because it's our first book, and I have a background in writing. And we got like, when it released, we got Business Book of the Month, and then we got the Startup Book of the Year award, and we were over the moon. Yeah. And then we got the overall Business Book of the Year as well award, which was incredible because that's from all the different genres of business books. We got the number 1. So I think it's because we spent so much time understanding our users. We treated it like a tech startup software almost, that we iterated and we got feedback and things. I think that's why it did so well.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. You basically applied the whole entrepreneurial iteration process to writing a book as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun.
Yeah. And then after that, like, or I don't know, like in parallel to that, you also do coaching, and you say coaching is one of the best ways to validate your ideas about your like unfair advantage. So how do you go about coaching, finding coaching clients and like evaluating your idea basically?
Yeah. So coaching is a modality. It's like one of the things that you'll learn in the startup world or business world is it's very important to validate the assumptions that you have. So you can create a target customer and you can make, okay, here are their needs and here's how my product will solve those needs. Or whether that product is an online course, whether it's the services, whether it's an app, whether it's a physical product, right? It's still the same things apply. So you have to validate that. You can do focus groups, you can do interviews. But those interviews and even the group things, it's not very different from, there's a lot of crossover between coaching and those things. Mm. So coaching is a modality that you can learn. I used to look down on coaching and think, coaching is like, you ask somebody a question and they reply with a question back to you. Like, it's not very useful. So it doesn't feel like it's very useful, but actually it's the most powerful thing because it's helping you to become empowered and to think for yourself and to get clarity on your own. So I think there are 2 main benefits to coaching. Number 1 is clarity. You get clearer on what do you want, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to avoid, what is the next thing that you need to do. You just start to really think it through. And secondly, accountability. We all need that support. I wasn't able to start my first business until I got an accountability buddy. I had so much fear and self-doubt. It took me 2 years to get started. So overall, it was like almost 4 years until I got to the point from taking that online course to actually systemizing my business and having passive income. It was like 4 years. It was hard work. It was tough and a lot of self-doubt, and coaching can help somebody through that. So those are the things. So study it. And that's what transformational creative is about. It's about how to know to do that. So it's been life-changing for me. I've been getting coaches for every part of my life now as well. And the amount of self-awareness I've gotten from it is incredible. And the amount of improvement I've had is really, really cool.
I guess one question a lot of people have, especially when they start out, is how can I find a coach when I don't yet have like the income to justify spending that kind of money?
Yeah, it depends. So it's an investment, right? So it's if you don't have that amount of money, if you don't have the unfair advantage of money, what we talk about in the book, to invest, there are alternatives. So you can get accountability partners in many different ways, which online communities and forums and subreddits and, all these kinds of groups and discords and stuff is one way to do it. Second, you can also, and maybe you can use both together, is journaling as well. Journaling, like an accountability body, those two together can approximate a little bit what a coach does, but coaching is just so powerful and so much easier. I never was able to build a good journaling habit. Accountability, but you have to really find somebody on the same journey as you and as committed as you are. Often accountability bodies don't work out because one or both of them stops caring and really the communication doesn't keep going, or one of them doesn't have good enough social skills or almost like coaching skills to help the other person without making them feel crappy. Like you have to have the right level of holding somebody accountable, but at the same time being gentle and kind and accepting of them and patient with them. So that's something that a coach learns to do, something that I've learned to do, whereas an accountability partner doesn't. So it's just, money is definitely an unfair advantage if you have that to invest. I think a lot of people spend money on things that aren't investments, but that are liabilities instead. And I think it's just about prioritization for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And so do you have maybe like one example of where coaching helped you validate an idea, but also one example where you got an idea and through coaching you learned, well, actually this is not going to work out at all?
Yeah, like plenty of times we've thought about, so before the book became the book, what we actually thought about is creating sort of an AI powered software tool that can help to grade different pitch decks. So a startup pitch deck is like what people do to try to raise funding. They create this slides with the information about the company. And we were getting sent these slides all the time. And we were like, wow, there's the signal to noise ratio was very low. And it's like, maybe there's a way we can grade these. What can we look for? And that was the start of our sort of investigation into this idea, which became the unfair advantage. And what we would do, we were talking to venture capitalists and other investors, and we got in front of them and we were interviewing them and asking about their needs. And that's kind of similar to coaching. You ask open-ended questions, right? So that's one way. But then the main example, that's like the proto book, was that kind of software startup. But the main example really is for the book itself. So we were coaching and mentoring startup founders just purely to get some feedback on the book concepts and to understand where are they getting stuck, where do they need help. That, I think, is the main kind of case study I can give you from my own life for how coaching me to validate something. But it was also for the transformational creator course, actually. So I started that. At first I started one-to-one coaching. Then I started to do group coaching. And then it became the course. So it's like the group coaching was the beta cohort of the course. It was like, there wasn't really much content. It was me asking questions, seeing where people are getting stuck. And that's how it kind of became the course itself.
That's very cool. So yeah, you basically keep iterating on the same thing and it evolves into different formats. Naturally.
It's just, you have to think about it as like, how can you serve people rather than thinking about the tool? Like, it doesn't matter if it's an app or if it's a journal. There are these different journals that you can create that people are selling, or whether it's, I don't know, a physical object or, a habit tracker. I've got a habit tracker somewhere there on the floor. And it's really useful. Been really useful for me to track my habits that I've been building and growing on. So different tools can have different things, but you have to kind of be tool agnostic. All right. And just think, how can I help somebody get the results that they want? So the most scrappy, what's the right way? It's like the ultimate MVP is just to say, okay, I'll just coach somebody and help them one-to-one. It's very unscalable.
Right.
There's this thing from Y Combinator, which is do things that don't scale. And I'm a huge believer in that. And coaching is the perfect example of, like, let's say you want to create an online course. Start by coaching. That's the thing that doesn't scale very well, you know?
Yeah. Coaching is definitely great. But then, you mentioned tools as well. And maybe there are other resources like books. What would you say is like the resource or tool that has helped you most in this whole learning journey? Is it like the initial course you took, or is it something you found along the way?
Oh, good question. What are my most transformative tools? Okay, so one of the books that really had an impact on me is The Millionaire Fast Lane. I recommended this one to Ali Abdal, actually, and he has a good video summary of it because of my recommendation. It's a great book, The Millionaire Fast Lane. Cheesy. Well, some people might think that's a bit of a cheesy title, but I think it's a brilliant book by MJ DeMarco. Another classic, which I can really recommend, is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Just a classic, brilliant book about how to systemize your business. And for me, I think a lot of Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield was quite useful. Although I was reading it while I had a lot of resistance, and if I had a coach on that rather than just that book, I think I would have got help much more. The book helped me with the concepts, but I wasn't able to really apply it for a long time, and I still struggle. I mean, resistance can be quite tough. But it's a great book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Yeah, I guess like applying things you learn, especially from books, is very hard. And maybe in your journey from building that first business until the book, and what has been the biggest learning challenge, and how did you overcome that?
Learning challenge. I think it was really difficult to learn how to make the book cohere, like to be make it in a very simple terms, how to make the book good, rather than just a collection of like blog articles. How do you make it something which is its own thing, where it flows and it's its own, like, on theme, on point, doesn't ramble, is a page turner, very engaging. And I studied storytelling frameworks and mindsets, and learned all these different concepts and ideas and models. My favorite one was Dan Harmon's Story Circle, which is based on the hero's journey, but a simplified version of it. And Dan Harmon is the co-creator of Rick and Morty, that cartoon show, and he created Community as well. We've got a really great model. So the Story Circle by Dan Harmon really helped me. And that was a big piece that I had to learn on the storytelling side.
All right. So I guess one question I always ask towards the end is who would you like to see as well in this podcast?
Who would I like to see? Recently on my podcast, so we have a podcast now, the Unfair Advantage podcast. We had on 2 amazing guests. So I'm going to recommend 2 people. One is Robin Waite. He's the author of Take Your Shots, and another book that he did is Online Business Startup. Really good. English guy. Really nice guy, and he knows a lot about kind of lifestyle businesses and coaching and that kind of side as well. But his book, Take Your Shot, is a fantastic short book, and it's like a story, and you learn so much about business just from the story. And the second guy is Simon Alexander Ong, and he's the author of an upcoming book. It's going to be published by Penguin, called Energize. It's concepts about energy and how to build energy, and how that's what you need to focus on. It's fantastic. So those are the 2 guests that I would recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll reach out to them. And then if you want to find out more about you or buy your book, how can they find you? Where can they find your books and other resources?
Sure. So The Unfair Advantage, How You Already Have What It Takes to Succeed, is available on Amazon. You can order it. The only place that it's not available isn't right now. So very shortly it will be, is in the US and Canada, because we got a separate publishing deal after COVID, because we launched the book just before COVID. So we got a separate publishing deal with a US publisher, which was really cool. So we've basically got 2 publishing deals for the book. And so so if you're in the US and Canada, you can order the book. It'll just take a couple of weeks to arrive, but you can't get it in digital and audio until it comes out in June 2022. So if you listen to this after that, then it's already out. But in the rest of the world, it's available everywhere, in bookstores, on Amazon, audiobook, and ebook, and actual physical book as well. And just connect with me on social media. I'm at Startup Hasan. Hasan is with one S. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm everywhere.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, then a lot of continued luck with your book and with your course as well. It was great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dominic. It's been fun.
All right. Thanks.